what's interesting is the the least mentally ill in terms of numbers is conservative men. Conservative men, I think it's like...
Because they're normal.
I think, okay.
Because they don't go to the hospital. They just sit there at their homes and die of diabetes.
It's really funny because I steelman this this argument myself because Destiny's making an argument from Stigma. Yeah, no, they're just as crazy as we are. It's just that they just don't go get help for it. That's all. It's just that they just don't go get help. That's all. That's all it is. No, well, maybe. Maybe it's they just don't go get help, or maybe it's just that they're not crazy. Why is that always just taken off the table? Oh, it's because they're just not crazy. That's all. Nobody's ever going to do that, are they? Ever.
Young liberal women, 56% report a mental health diagnosis.
Wow.
Young moderate women, 18-29, 28%. Young conservative women, 27%, only slightly less. So for men, it is 34% of all liberal men. 34%. So a third of all liberal men are mentally ill, 22% of moderate men, and 16% of conservative men.
Yeah, but do you know what the lunatics argue?
What?
Bring that up.
Oh,
these lunatics
that they want to go to the hospital.
The conservative men are just as mentally ill. It's just undiagnosed because there's a stigma in conservative communities about going to get your mental illness diagnosed. I always point out, and I think this is see how I steelman the argument myself? You Coomer gremlin. It's so funny they'll never mention the... Yeah, I did. Yes, I did, you little... Interesting way to point this out.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they're not going to get diagnosed because they don't have a problem. Did you ever think of that?
It's possible it's undiagnosed because I think that...
Did you? Like, did you ever think of that? Did you ever think about the fact that maybe they're not going and getting diagnosed because they have much better family infrastructure? They have religious communities. They can talk with their boys. They don't get offended by everything everybody says. They don't get upsetty spaghetti if their friend calls them the F-slur. Do you ever think about that? Like, really, honestly, what would happen if you were in a community where just like everybody all the time, like I'm just saying, like let's really look at this if we break this whole thing down. So you have to understand that when we're inside of these communities, and these are great communities, by the way, you know, people are going to get hyper offensive because, you know, people say hyper offensive things, and of course that leads to stigma in society, and that ups the mental illness. Of course, like 1 + 1 = 2, exactly. Like, what are we even talking about here? And then on top of that, here's Andrew Wilson saying there's some kind of like infrastructure difference that these conservatives have access to. It's like, jaw.
It is accurate, though, that there is a stigma about mental health and therapy and things along those lines in conservative... I mean, if you want to, like...
I agree, but I also think that what happens is...
like, it's so funny because we were having a different conversation, like, about, like, do you think there's a stigma around, like, vets being able to get diagnosed for issues related to, you know, like, war or combat or whatever else? All of a sudden, we would be the most something. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, they're doing the thing that feminists say they do that they get so mad that feminists say they do. Whenever feminists are like, oh no, feminism cares about men too, because, you know, we think that the patriarchy also oppresses men's ability to have mental health stuff or whatever. But
I believe that that's true. I believe that feminists believe that feminism is good for men. They're totally doing the thing that they always do, where they conflate issues that have nothing to do with one another at all. And Andrew over here, like, if a feminist were to tell Andrew, he would be like, hey, you know, like, feminism is actually really good for men. He would be like, no, you know, the thing is, though, is like, I just totally don't believe that you believe that, blah, 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 jaw. And it's like, no, you jawed Coomer gremlin. I do believe that feminists believe that. I just think they're stupid.
And they're like, but then when they're talking about like an issue from another perspective, like, actually, no, that never happens. No, actually, men don't actually have these mental health problems.
Well, it's funny because there was a concession 5 seconds before this that, yes, there is a stigma around reporting mental health issues. I agree that that's true, but it's not going to account for the significant differences. That's one. And two, we have communities. We have different communities. You know, this is the problem. Stupid commentary by a dumb gremlin.
All like liberal blah, blah, blah. But if you were to talk about like veterans or whatever else, now the thing would shift a lot. Or the fact that like, here are all of these... No,
it wouldn't shift. What the is he even talking about? And the thing about Destiny is, all you have to do is sit there and let him launch into his bullshit and then think about it for a couple seconds before you respond. You'll find out that none of it makes any sense.
here are all of these these young men that are having these issues, and nobody wants to talk about their issues. Nobody wants to talk about their depression. That's why Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate are so important. But the position is like, it completely changes just based on the topic, like the perspective.
Nope. Well, I mean, the issue does change based on the perspective. That's true. Notice how you name two people who aren't me, the guy who's talking. And the second thing to point out here is that there can be unique, challenging issues to one particular demographic, in this case, young men. Not all young men are right wingers. That's one. And then the second issue that you have here is that even let's just grant that they were, that would be one particular demographic, in this case, young men who feel like their concerns aren't being heard. When it comes to something hyper specific, like dating, the marketplace for wives, and things like this, not that they're being unheard about having to go and do grimy jobs.
If you want to,
I agree, but I also think that what happens is when you're talking, especially.
I also hate this. I agree, and yeah, because Joe Rogan also just kind of completely contradicted him. He's like, "Oh, I agree, yeah." I kind of think that maybe all the men are just mentally healthy. And Joe Rogan's like, "Well, I think there are issues there." And he's like, "Yeah, I agree," and then it's like, "Okay."
I didn't say I think all the men are mentally healthy. You see what I mean? Just lies and bullshit. Just straw man lies and bullshit. Nobody said that.
So you're too scared to debate him? He is also, by the way. Like, I would be surprised if they have a significant disagreement anywhere in here because he's so cucked and they have to agree on everything.
About the voodoo that is psychology, and it is voodoo.
It is voodoo.
I have very little respect for psychology.
Right.
I don't even consider it science. I consider that there's scientific methods used for data gathering, but I don't consider psychology a science.
And that's psychology. Psychiatry gets even weirder because then you start adding medication.
Wow.
You're not just talking about therapy.
It's all voodoo, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
I think that men
True.
often, especially conservative men, get as much out of their close relationships with friends and family as they would going to a psychologist. In other words, I think just having.
Oh, that's so crazy. Huh.
Is it?
If you have a bunch of healthy relationships in your real life, you would get just as much out of that. Oh, really?
Really? Really? You mean you agree with my entire point that I was making, dumb Coomer Gremlin? Oh, isn't that crazy? Wow, look at that. Destiny's, Andrew's right. He's 100% right here. Yeah. Isn't it crazy that if you have healthy, good relationships with people, will not have to go see a shrink? Hmm? Who would ever have thunk it? Exactly. It's very strange.
That's crazy. Like, personally, I feel the same way about
Isn't it? Isn't it crazy?
incels. Like, I think that you get just as much out of having like a happy, healthy, loving relationship with a woman who accepts you for who you are as you would, I guess, like doing whatever crazy incels are going to, right? No f***ing Sherlock Holmes.
That's right. So you were earlier disagreeing with a point that you don't actually disagree with, you stupid cooming idiot. Here, the Coomer Gremlin is pointing out that I'm absolutely right, that they have happy, healthy relationships, and so they're not nearly as psychologically distressed as these leftoid mongoloids are.
Jesus Christ. If you have happy, healthy friends and your life is like incredibly well adjusted and isn't deviating and skewing hardcore off the norm in a way that's unhealthy, yeah, no shit. You don't need to go to a psychiatrist, you moron.
How does that make me a moron? Oh, you really pinned me down on this one. The coping gremlin didn't he? Ooh, really got a hold of me on this one, didn't he? Boy, oh boy. Yeah, of course. Clearly, you have well-adjusted relationships because you're not a dysgenic lunatic who's inside of these various leftist discords. You might not have to go to shrinks as much. Of course, that's probably the case, dummy. Oh, okay. You got me. Oh, this guy's on a roll. He's just clobbering the shit out of me. I don't know how I'm ever going to recover from this one.
Somebody to talk to who's a close friend who's intricately familiar with your situation probably gives you more value than going to a complete stranger who has.
I also hate when people give these statements that everybody agrees with, that everybody, even on the science side.
Oh, now we're switching it around, huh? We switching it around a little bit. I hate the fact that everybody, first of all, everybody doesn't agree with that statement. Dumb cooming moron. But also, let us point out the obvious, which is that just mere moments ago, he was disagreeing with this statement and now agreeing with the statement.
Like, if you were to ask any psychiatrist or psychologist, what do you think is better, for me to go and get a therapist or for me to have a group of friends that's very supportive of me, is aware of my situation, and can give me good feedback on everything going on, knowing they have my best interest at heart, and I don't have to actually like pay the money for it, and it's a genuine connection.
Yeah, but do you see the distinction here? The distinction here is not whether or not there would be some kind of universal agreement with my statement that having a good infrastructure of friends and family to support you during your very trying times that you can trust would be better than a psychologist. It's whether or not it's the case that the conditionals that conservatives build for themselves, utilizing religious institutions and the various belief structures that they have, provides the infrastructure for that exact conditional. That's what we're really getting at, isn't it? And the thing that Destiny is not actually addressing. And that's the most important aspect. Why is the left more mentally ill? Because the way that they live their lives, the horrible, horrific ways in which they live their lives lead to massive ostracizing from general society because they introduce their own stigmas to themselves that people don't like. They don't like how they live. That simple. They don't like how they live. Phrasing, we should not be talking about Destiny grabbing bulls, sir. Oh, yeah, that's true.
Well, I think you should actually get some Prozac. Like,
learned manipulation techniques. That's what they learn, essentially, is manipulation techniques. I think there's more value there. And so I think that the stigma which exists there, it doesn't exist because it's like you're not manly, which is how they try to frame it. I think the stigma exists there because so many conservative men go, well, I tried that. It was nonsense. I tried it and it sucked. I tried it and it was worth. I went to marriage counseling, did nothing. Sided with the wife, right? I went for this issue, did nothing.
I like how that's the example. I tried marriage counseling and they sided against me, so I knew it was bullshit. What if, God.
God, nothing. Destiny triangles, by the way. Yes, this is unfortunately the case that many men go to marriage counseling, and the marriage counselor usually is a woman. And those women often have a bias towards women to the point of absurdity. Now, why is it that you think that it's the case that more men walk away from marriage counseling thinking that it was worthless, and women walk away from it thinking that they have validation? Could that be, is it either A, because all of the men are wrong, or B, because there's a bit of a stigma in utilizing aggressive behavior and no stigma against women doing it?
We should just watch the HDR video.
You should.
Thing. But when I went out and had some beers with my friends, that actually helped relieve.
Because they all took my side. You know what he sounds like? He sounds like a f***ing spoiled girl right now, spoiled white girl. I tried talking to the person and they didn't agree with me at all. But then when I went up with my girls and they all said, yeah, that guy, they all agreed.
Why is this focusing around agreement? In fact, I would say that the opposite is true. Oftentimes, the reason that going out with your buddies and getting some beers is better stress relief than going to a psychologist and trying to overly explain a situation that they're unfamiliar with and don't have intricate knowledge of because they're not your friends, leads to terrible advice giving, terrible relationship advice giving, and also they're not there to communicate with you the same way your friends would. Here's a good example of this that you often will run into with very good friends that you probably won't run into in a professional setting with a psychologist. Hey, Andrew, stop being such a stupid idiot. Go home, tell your wife that you were being a idiot, and it won't happen again because you're out of line. How many times you guys had this conversation? It doesn't have to be with a wife, right? And it's just an example, but any number of times and examples you've had a friend tell you, what are you, stupid? The problem's you. Problem's you, dummy. So stop being a dumb. How many times? Happens all. Yeah, I've been on both sides. Exactly. I've been on the side telling them you're being stupid, and I've been on the side where I've been the one being told that I'm being stupid. But immediately it just comes into this idea of, oh, well, they must agree with me, so therefore true. Like, no, it's much more complex than that. You're often going to have disagreements. It's not that, it's that they don't even feel like this person's familiar enough with the situation to really understand, or perhaps they're just not very good at giving overly detailed explanations. Women are often better at that. They categorize insignificant details that men often don't. Quick examples of this: dates, specific times, appointments, right? Birthdays, anniversary, like that. To many men, these are essentially trivial details. They're trivial in the scheme of things, so they'll write them down and things like this, or even maybe even make a mental note they should remember them. But they become trivialities in comparison to other things that they're generally interested in. Happens all the time. So women can often plead their case much better because they remember many of the trivialities or insignificant details. And men are like, no, 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 that's not what happened. But they talk to their friends, and they can perhaps give a better explanation or accounting of what's going on. What is this lunatic's obsession with you anyway? Well, in this particular case, I don't think Destiny's overly obsessed with me. Not at all. But I think that he was really pissed I went on Rogan.
I think the problem with that is there's a lot of guys who don't have good friends, you know?
Wow. Oh, wow. You don't say.
And you don't have someone that you can count
Yeah, leftists.
on, unfortunately.
No.
There's a lot of men out there that
Really?
are lost.
I agree, but I think that the conservative men seem like they
Oh, I agree.
have closer longevity with friends than progressive
Than any progressives. Really? Yeah? You really think so?
men do.
Yes, and they don't abandon them when they.
Yes, I really think so. 100%, I really think so. Here's my proof. My proof is that when all of the kids of you dropped all over the internet that were all on the Destiny casting couch came out, all your little friends, all your little buddies went, not me. I'm not with this guy. I don't want nothing to do with him. Not I, said the guy. All of them went running the other direction. Your little buddy Pisco went running off. Your little friend, not so erudite, suddenly wasn't much of a friend anymore. Just one after the other, after the next. All your little buddies went running the other direction as quick as possible. That's what happens in the lefty circles.